Could you offer some straightforward, beginner-friendly advice on how to cut down on sibilance in my podcast? I'd also appreciate a brief explanation or crash course on what sibilance is. So the reason I'm reading it with my S's so prominent is because sibilance is that S or T sound. Sorry for your ears. It's that range between probably like 5 kilohertz and up. Okay. Those who take our ear training course know that we like to think of 8 kilohertz as a sound and 16 kilohertz as a sound, almost like an S with a T. And all of that could be considered sibilance. There's also a breathy quality that could be considered sibilant, which is above, it's like between, let's say, 5K and 8K. And sometimes that comes out and it seems like it doesn't need to be there. One way you could address that is by using a different microphone. So let's take, for example, this shotgun microphone that you're hearing me from right now. You can see that when I get closer to the microphone, you hear more bass. And when I get back from the microphone, you hear less bass. That's the proximity effect I was describing. But it's a condenser microphone. And so you're probably hearing very sharp S's, which is kind of nice because maybe if I step back a little bit further, those might get a little bit less prominent. So if we're really close, then sibilance may become a problem. But if you move the mic further away, maybe that could help you. At the same time, you'll be reducing the low frequencies that might have been masking those high frequencies. As I mentioned in the upward spread of masking answer earlier. What I want to do here, though, is plug in this microphone. So let me bring this up so that you can hear it. Give me just a moment here. 1, 2, 2, check. 1, 2. Okay, I'm back with my shotgun mic. I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm not getting levels, and I don't want to sit here and troubleshoot this. But what I was going to demonstrate is that when you use a dynamic mic like this, you're probably going to hear less sibilance than if you were using a condenser mic. So another, in addition to mic placement changes, just experimenting with the mic placement, you might also experiment with microphone selection if you're trying to overcome sibilance. But maybe you are like Andrew, our member who just left a comment, and you actually didn't record the thing, and it's up to you to mix it and manage that sibilance in the mixing phase. And if that's the case, I'd recommend looking up this video I made on it's must-know audio tips for podcasters, streamers, and creators. But in there, I talk about de-esser. So I've put this comment below, and if you go click that in the comments, you'll be able to watch the full video where I go through some other tips that might be helpful for you if you're doing audio as a podcast or live streamer. But if you've already recorded the thing, then there's something called a de-esser. Let me take a step back here. You could fix the problem. In fact, let's do a little demo here. So I'm going to share my screen, and I will just share my whole screen so you'll be able to see my audio interface, the RME total mix here, okay? And you can see that I'm coming in on this channel. So if I open up the EQ and I turn on the EQ, I could fix that sibilance by potentially looking at where it is. So I could boost this a little bit. And am I hearing that? I don't really hear a change. Let's see. Check, check, check. I'm not really hearing a change. I'm not sure why. Let me look here. 1, 2, check. 1, 2, 2. Okay, I don't think I'm hearing that. So I'm wondering if my audio interface is acting up right now. But basically, what a shame, because that would have been a really cool demo. Basically, what I was going to say is that you could address too much energy on the S's by dragging down or EQing it out. But the problem is that an EQ is always on. So if you're hearing the S's when the person says S, but otherwise the timbre and tone of the voice is good, then you don't really want to just cut out those high frequencies throughout the entire thing, because then when they're not making the S sound, it might sound a little bit dull. So in that video, I talk about a tool called a de-esser, which is sort of like I think there are a few different forms, but I think you could think about it as a band limited compressor. So it's like a compressor that only is triggered by frequencies within a certain range. And actually, a better way of saying it is probably a side-chained compressor that's only triggered by frequencies within a certain range. So if you open up a de-esser on the tool I use in the video I just posted, the DLZ Creator, or if you open up a de-esser plugin in your DAW, it will probably have a range selection that you can say, where is the problem frequency? And then you set that to the range that's too harsh. And anytime the signal level goes beyond your threshold in that frequency range, it will compress the signal and reduce the level. You could also use like a dynamic EQ, where you have a range and an EQ that will dynamically turn on and off within that range. So de-esser, that's something I would recommend looking into if you're dealing with sibilance. Because again, you don't want to just use a big sledgehammer of an EQ and just cut out 8 kilohertz from every moment of that recording. Instead, it's more tactful and efficient to use a tool that will only turn on when the problem occurs. And a de-esser is the perfect tool for that when you're talking about sibilance.